And so Yugen is first of all suggestiveness. I was looking round one of the temples a few days ago where I noticed that you couldn't figure out how big it was, or it didn't seem to have any limits, because always every wall, say of a room, seemed to be a screen which led to something else beyond. And at the back of every garden there seemed to be a little gate that led to some other courtyard. And everything led into something else. And I said to the priest, I don't know whether I'm going to go exploring or not, or just leave it alone and think that, well, here I left Kyoto and I never did find out what was through that little gate. And so what? Forever there will be magic behind there, which I didn't define, I didn't draw in. And so this whole temple was done that way. All sorts of suggestions of little avenues disappearing, like a mountain path winding up among the trees. Where does it go? True, if you follow it, you'll eventually go up out of Kyoto here and get down to Otsu. And so you'll find yourself back in the suburbs. But there is the sense with that disappearing mountain path, like we've got going up here, that it goes to the place. And everybody has in the back of their minds an image of the place that you want to go to. Or not really an image though, it's always slightly indefinite. There's the certain feeling of there ought to be somewhere the thing I've always wanted. We get disappointed, of course, because as we get older we feel that perhaps that doesn't exist at all. That one just has to put up with the second best, or with something. Half a loaf is better than no bread. But still, I find that Far Eastern art is very, very full of hints about what is sometimes called Horai-san. Horai-san is the magical island, somewhere out in the Pacific, which is the Paradise Island. And all these Chinese paintings of wonderful floating pagodas and terraces with scholars sitting around drinking wine and so on are hints of the paradise world. And that somewhere then these little steps lead up to that thing. And you've seen these steps. Japan is full of them. As you just go along in the train, you look up the hills, and there are arches, torii, steps disappearing into the hills, all of which suggest the feeling, somewhere off there is that thing. So Yugen, as it were, comes round full circle to Sabi. The wonderful lonely place at the end of the road, where there won't be any mother-in-law to bother you, any that sort of dreadful social difficulty, but the solitude which befits a bearded old gentleman. Now, of course, you see, all these things are symbols. On one level, they're very human, and they reflect our perhaps childish and immature desires to be really alone, to have that paradise thing. And realistic people say, well, you ought not to bother yourself or fool yourself with such fantasies. And nowadays I find that we feel very guilty about thinking of paradise, of Horai-san, or whatever it is, the enchanted garden. We think, reality is what you read about in the newspapers, and you've got to face it. And everything is unpleasant, basically. I know there's the hard-boiled school of zoologists, for example, who insist that birds hate flying. Everybody has always envied a bird and wanted to be able to glide along with wings, And so there comes up somebody, who's usually some wretched academician, who says, no, we've discovered by measurements that birds loathe flying. You must feel very satisfactory when you found that out, because you've smashed an ideal. Oh, for the wings of a dove. Far away would I roam. In the wilderness build me a nest and remain there forever at rest. I'm quoting the Psalms. But apparently doves just hate this chore of flying. Now, it is just in the same way as it's ridiculous to try to be so inhuman as never to feel any regrets about the passing of time and of life, and so on. It's likewise inhuman not to have the paradise fantasy of the mysterious place round the corner, just over the crest of the hill, just behind the island in the distance. You see? Because that place is really the big joke. That's you. That's why you have found that at the end of the line, when you get through the last torii and up the last stairway, you are liable to be confronted with a mirror. And so everybody is seeking for that thing that you've got to have, you see. Well, you got it. But nobody's going to believe this. But there it is. The real thing that you are is the paradise land that you're looking for at the end of the line. And it's far, far more reliable than any kind of an external scene which you could love and cling to and hold on to. But of course, the whole fascination of life is that seems perfectly incredible.